Good evening, everyone. Beneath the waves of our world's oceans lies a haunting collection of secrets from humanity's darkest chapter. While we often think of World War II in terms of battles won and lost, of heroes and victims, there's another story lurking in the depths, a story of unimaginable wealth, desperate escapes, and mysteries that remain unsolved more than 80 years later. Tonight, I want to take you on a journey beneath the surface to explore some of the most tantalizing treasure ships from World War II that have never been found. These aren't just stories about gold and jewels, though there's plenty of that. These are stories about the final chaotic days of the war, about plunder and desperation, about ships that vanished carrying secrets and fortunes that could rewrite what we know about history. Some estimates suggest that billions of dollars in treasure, adjusted for today's value, still rests on the ocean floor in ships that have never been located. And each of these vessels has a story that's part history, part mystery, and entirely captivating. Let me begin with perhaps one of the most extraordinary cases, the Awa 52, a Japanese submarine that's been called the Golden Submarine. In 1944, Japan was becoming increasingly isolated. The Allied blockade was strangling the island nation, cutting it off from critical resources and from its Axis partner, Nazi Germany. But Japan and Germany still needed each other. Germany wanted raw materials, rubber, tin, tungsten, and other strategic metals. Japan wanted German technology, radar equipment, jet engine designs, and torpedo technology. So in March 1944, the Awa 52 left Kure, Japan, on one of the most ambitious and dangerous voyages of the war. This massive submarine, over 350 feet long, was loaded with an astounding cargo. Historical records and declassified documents suggest it carried approximately 2 tons of gold, 146 gold bars to be precise, along with raw materials like rubber and opium. The gold alone, in today's values, would be worth over $100 million. The Awa 52's mission was to reach German-occupied France, exchange cargo with the Germans, and return to Japan with desperately needed technology. But the submarine never made it. On June 23, 1944, in the mid-Atlantic, U.S. Navy aircraft detected and attacked the I-52. Acoustic torpedoes found their mark, and the submarine disappeared beneath the waves with all 95 crew members and its golden cargo. Here's where it gets interesting. In 1995, undersea explorer Paul Tidwell announced he'd found the Awa 52 lying at a depth of over 17,000 feet, more than 3 miles down. His team captured sonar images and even retrieved some artifacts. But here's the mystery. They never recovered the gold, and the exact location has remained disputed. Some researchers question whether Tidwell found the right wreck at all. To this day, despite multiple expeditions, the gold of the Awa 52 has never been confirmed or recovered. At such extreme depths, in complete darkness and under crushing pressure, the submarine keeps its secrets. The technology exists to reach it, but the cost is astronomical, and the legal questions about who owns the treasure are nightmarishly complex. Now let's travel from the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean to the story of the Port Nicholson. This British merchant ship was traveling in November 1942 as part of a convoy near South Africa when German submarine U-1H1 spotted it. The submarine fired, the torpedo struck, and the Port Nicholson went down quickly, taking 85 souls with it. But this wasn't an ordinary merchant vessel. According to persistent reports, the Port Nicholson was carrying a secret cargo of platinum, 70 tons of it to be exact. Platinum is one of the rarest and most valuable metals on Earth, used in everything from jewelry to catalytic converters to advanced electronics. 70 tons of platinum today would be worth well over $2 billion. Why would a merchant ship be carrying such an enormous quantity of precious metal through submarine-infested waters? The answer lies in the war effort. Platinum was crucial for military applications, particularly in aircraft engines and electrical contacts. South Africa was one of the world's primary sources of platinum, and the Allies desperately needed it. The ship went down in waters about 4,500 feet deep off the coast of South Africa. Unlike the Awa 52, this depth is theoretically more accessible. Yet the Port Nicholson has never been found. Over the decades, several salvage companies have searched for it, drawn by the enormous potential payday. Some claim to have located it, but no platinum has ever been recovered. The South African government has been involved in the search at times, and the legal status of the wreck is complicated. Is it a war grave? Does the platinum belong to Britain, South Africa, or whoever finds it? These questions remain unanswered, largely because the ship itself remains lost. If there is one ship that represents both the tragedy and the enduring mystery of wartime treasure, it's the Awa Maru. This Japanese ocean liner has a story unlike any other from World War II. By April 1945, Japan was clearly losing the war. The Awa Maru was designated as a relief ship, marked with safe passage by international agreement to deliver Red Cross supplies to Allied prisoners of war held in Japanese camps. The ship was painted with large white crosses, fully illuminated at night, a clear signal of its humanitarian mission. But according to numerous accounts, the Awa Maru was also being used for something else entirely. As the Japanese Empire collapsed, authorities allegedly began evacuating wealth from occupied territories, from Singapore, from the Dutch East Indies, from Indochina. Witnesses reported seeing crates of gold, platinum, diamonds, and priceless art being loaded aboard. Some estimates place the value at over $5 billion in today's money. On April 1st, 1945, in the Taiwan Strait, disaster struck. The American submarine USS Queenfish, operating in heavy fog, detected a large ship on radar. The commander, unaware this was the protected Awa Maru, fired 4 torpedoes. They hit, and the massive ship sank in just 2 minutes, taking over 2,000 people to the bottom. Only one person survived. The captain of the Queenfish was court-martialed for the mistake, though he received only a reprimand. But the controversy over what the ship was carrying has never died down. In 1979, the Chinese government, the wreck lies in their territorial waters, conducted a salvage operation. They recovered some artifacts, including personal effects and even some small amounts of precious metals. But they found nothing like the legendary treasure. The operation was called off, deemed too expensive and dangerous to continue. Here's the question that haunts historians and treasure hunters. Was the legendary cargo ever really there? Or has it become an inflated myth, grown larger with each retelling? Some argue that the treasure was removed before the ship sailed or never existed at all. Others insist the 1979 salvage operation simply didn't search thoroughly enough, that the real treasure remains buried under silt or scattered across the wreck site. The Awa Maru sits in relatively shallow water, about 300 feet, which means it's technically accessible, but international law, territorial disputes between China and Taiwan, and the fact that it's considered a war grave have all combined to keep it protected from further salvage attempts. The ship remains there, keeping whatever secrets it holds. Now, you might be wondering, has anyone ever successfully recovered treasure from a World War II wreck? The answer is yes, and it's worth talking about because it shows just how difficult and controversial these operations can be. The HMS Edinburgh was a British light cruiser that in April 1942 was carrying 465 gold bars, about 5 tons, from the Soviet Union to Britain. This was payment for military equipment under the Lend-Lease program. German submarines and aircraft attacked the ship in the Barents Sea north of Russia. After being hit by torpedoes, the damaged Edinburgh was eventually scuttled by British destroyers to prevent it from falling into German hands. The wreck sat at a depth of about 800 feet until 1981, when a British salvage company obtained permission from the British and Soviet governments to recover the gold. It took tremendous effort. The water was freezing, the wreck was in a war zone, and the ship was deteriorating. But they succeeded, recovering about 90% of the gold. The haul was divided according to a pre-agreed formula. Portions for the British government, the salvage company, and even the Soviet Union. It was worth millions, and it showed that such recoveries are possible. But the HMS Edinburgh is the exception, not the rule. The stars aligned. The wreck was in an accessible depth. The governments involved cooperated, and the location was precisely known. For most World War II treasure ships, none of these factors apply. Beyond the famous cases, there are dozens of lesser-known vessels that went down carrying a valuable cargo. The Liberty ships, those mass-produced American cargo vessels, played a crucial role in the war, and many now rest on the ocean floor with their cargoes intact. Consider the SS John Barry, sunk by a Japanese submarine in the Arabian Sea in 1944. It was reportedly carrying $3 million in Saudi silver reals, payment for oil concessions. The wreck was eventually found and salvaged in the 1990s, and much of the silver was recovered, but the operation cost millions and took years. Or think about the countless ships sunk carrying industrial materials that are now far more valuable than they were during the war. Copper, nickel, tin, these weren't considered treasure in 1943, but today their value has multiplied enormously. Some wrecks contain more wealth in raw materials than in any gold or platinum they might have carried. There are also the personal treasures, jewelry, art, and heirlooms that refugees and evacuees carried with them trying to escape the war zones. These items may not have enormous monetary value, but their historical and personal significance is immeasurable. Every sunken ship from this era is, in a sense, a time capsule. So why, with all our modern technology, do these ships remain unfound? First, the ocean is vast and deep, even when we have a general idea of where a ship went down. The search area might cover hundreds of square miles. Ocean currents can scatter debris across enormous areas. Ships can slide down underwater slopes or be buried under decades of silt. Second, the technology required for deep sea salvage is extraordinarily expensive. At depths beyond a few hundred feet, human divers can't operate. You need remotely operated vehicles, specialized equipment, and ships that can stay on station for months. A single deep sea expedition can cost millions of dollars with no guarantee of success. Third, there are the legal complications. Who owns a shipwreck? Is it the country whose flag it flew? The country in whose waters it sank? The insurance company that paid out the claim? The descendants of those who died aboard? International maritime law provides some answers, but every case is different, and litigation can drag on for decades. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, many of these wrecks are war graves. They are the final resting place of sailors, soldiers, and civilians who died in the conflict. There's a strong ethical argument that they should be left undisturbed, regardless of what treasure they might contain. Several countries have laws specifically protecting war graves from salvage operations. I should note that not every story of wartime treasure is true. Over the decades, legends have grown and myths have multiplied. The actual evidence for some of these treasure cargoes is thin. A report here, a rumor there, perhaps a document of questionable authenticity. The fog of war was real. Record-keeping during the conflict was sometimes haphazard, especially in the final chaotic months. Ships were sometimes loaded in secret. Cargo manifests could be falsified for security reasons. After the war, some governments had incentives to exaggerate losses or hide the truth about what was being transported. This has created a perfect environment for treasure myths to flourish. Every unidentified sonar contact becomes a potential treasure ship. Every ambiguous historical reference gets interpreted as evidence of hidden wealth. Serious marine archaeologists and historians approach these stories with healthy skepticism. They rely on documentary evidence, cross-referenced accounts, and careful analysis. But they also acknowledge that some of the legends might be true, or at least partially true. The ocean keeps its secrets well. As I bring this to a close, I want you to think about what these lost treasure ships really represent. Yes, there's the obvious allure of wealth, billions of dollars in gold, platinum, and precious metals lying on the ocean floor. For salvage companies and adventurers, these wrecks represent the ultimate prize, the big score that could make someone fabulously wealthy. But I think they represent something more profound. These ships are physical embodiments of a world at war, of the chaos and desperation of that time. They carried not just treasure, but hopes of escape, of survival, of victory. Each one has a human story of lives interrupted, futures erased, families torn apart. The treasure, if it exists, is simultaneously worthless and priceless. Worthless because it's unreachable, locked away beneath crushing pressure and miles of water. Priceless because of what it represents, a frozen moment from history waiting to be discovered. Modern technology continues to advance. Autonomous underwater vehicles are becoming more sophisticated and less expensive. Sonar and magnetometer technology improves each year. DNA analysis and historical research are helping to identify previously unknown wrecks. It's entirely possible that some of these legendary treasure ships will be found in our lifetimes, but I suspect many of them will remain lost, at least for now. The ocean is patient, and it doesn't give up its secrets easily. So tonight, as you go home, think about what's out there beneath the waves. Somewhere in the Atlantic, the Fokker EI-52 sits in eternal darkness with its golden cargo. Somewhere off South Africa, the Port Nicholson rests with its platinum. In the Taiwan Strait, the Awa Maru holds whatever truth lies within its rusting hull. These ships are more than just treasure. They are monuments to a terrible war, reminders of sacrifice and loss, and enduring mysteries that connect us to our history. Perhaps it's fitting that they remain lost. Perhaps some mysteries are meant to stay unsolved, and some treasures meant to stay hidden, and some stories meant to continue being told generation after generation with wonder and fascination. Thank you.